Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to Talk with Tubbs, a petrolhead's perspective. As always, I'm your host, Tapelo, aka Tubbs, and I'm going to talk you through this podcast that deals with everything motoring. We're going to talk what's new on the market, what's old on the market, what's good on the market, and also what's bad on the market. Then we're also going to delve into some motorsport, but more focused on my favorite form of motorsport, Formula One. We're going to talk driver lineups, what we feel, react, but most of all, I'm trying to give you a petrol head's perspective. Words that come from someone who's as passionate about the industry as anyone I know. So as ever, let me not waste your time. Here we go. Talk with Tubbs is a go.
Well, I'm back. Look, I do these podcasts as a hobby. It's not something I do weekly like that. I try to, and sometimes I am successful, but because it's really a hobby, sometimes life gets ahead of me, and what's happening now generally happens. I go on a break for a few weeks, and then I have to come back and apologize, and then try and give you guys content again. But you know what? I enjoy it. I enjoy it. It's part of the struggle. So let's not waste any time. Let's get into it. Look, if you're looking for news related stuff, you're probably not going to get it from this podcast. I'm trying to focus on the Formula One. We finally reached the summer break. We are halfway through the season, so I think it's a good opportunity for us to sort of break it down, look at what each team has done, what they haven't done, kind of critique and praise teams, and then ultimately see where we go from here. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to do this in reverse order. I'm going to go from the team at the bottom of the Constructors' Championship, and I'm going to count upwards. Right. So in 10th place, Haas. Look, I don't think we expected any different from Haas, simply because they came out even before the season started, even before testing, and they were blunt in saying, look, they're not going to have enough money to develop the car this season. They're just there to participate and try and give their drivers some experience, some knowledge, just for them to work through it and get used to Formula One. So, yeah, I think trying to expect anything other than from this team would be difficult. And that's exactly why we're sitting in the situation where they lost the Constructors title and the Constructors Championship, and they have 0 points to their name. But I think that's very limited in how we should view Haas this season. And I think the main part of that goes, look, they have some of the most difficult driver lineup to get to be successful, because they've got two rookies. They don't have someone who is experienced to guide the other. Pardon, sorry about that. They don't have the experienced driver to guide the other driver on what to do, what they need, also going forward with development and stuff. So they've got two rookies, but I think we somehow need to praise that team. Look, when the season started, we had very low expectations for this team. We thought, here's this team who's already struggling. They're coming in with two rookies. Not a lot is to be expected. And to be fair, critique as we may, Nikita Mazepin has improved as the season went on. He's gotten rid of those mistakes that have earned him titles like Mazepin and all that type of jazz. He's kind of been consistent with where he should be. Yes, he needs to get better and start challenging his team more, because at the end of the day, there's still an inter-team rivalry between them. So I think he needs to develop on that. But otherwise, all his other aspects have improved. He's no longer losing the car senselessly. He's just doing things the way they should. And then we hop over to Mick Schumacher, and again, he's improving as the season goes on. And I think we somehow got a glimpse of how good he is, even though the machinery doesn't match that, with the way he defended against Max Verstappen at the Hungarian Grand Prix. I'll touch on the Grand Prix later, but we saw that spatial awareness, that drive, that desire, because let's be fair, for him, there's no reward in trying to hold up Max Verstappen. It's simply a case of pride. So it was good to see that from him, just trying to defend that kind of position. Just shows how much he's enjoying what he's doing, but also how passionate and to some degree the ambition that he has for his future. So that's good to see. So overall, this team has been doing pretty well. I won't give ratings, that everyone does that. I talk about what I talk about. In ninth place, Alfa Romeo. Look, there's not really much to say about this team, man. I don't know. It's a really a missed team for me. Yeah, sure, they've got 3 points, but I don't get it. I don't know how to describe this team. You've got Antonio Giovinazzi, he's not doing anything wrong, but he's not excelling either. He's just there, essentially. And you've got Kimi Räikkönen as well, who sometimes look like he's past his prime. He shouldn't be in Formula One anymore. And then sometimes he's there or thereabout, close to the points, and he eventually does get points. You know what I mean? So it's a very difficult team to have a conclusive statement about. I think the most apt description I can put to their Formula One season so far is literally meh. Yeah, just that. So it will be interesting to see how they carry on and how they factor into races as the season progresses. We do already know that there could be driver lineup changes for that team next year, so we'll keep an eye out for that. Now Williams in what's that, 8th place. They've got 10 points, which is really bloody amazing for this team. We know how difficult it's been for this team. I don't want to rip into the reputation and the ethos and the history of Williams as a Formula One team, but I have said before to friends on this podcast, I think back in the Spotify days, when they got sold to what's that investment company? Is it Darlington, something like that? It's that they spent too long stuck in their ways. They needed to adapt to the modern age of Formula One. And we know this adaptation is not easy. It's a long process and it's very capital intensive. So I always felt the sale of the team away from the Williams of old to the Williams of new was a good thing. They also said they weren't expecting big things this season. You know, they had kind of said their strategy was to kind of eke points where they can, and where they feel that they can't, just let it go. But I think the good thing is, especially with what happened in Hungary, for them to get points, you kind of want to be there or thereabout. And I know I use that a lot when I describe motor racing, Formula One, whatever, being there or thereabout. That's a big thing in racing, because that enables you to capitalize whenever something goes wrong, whenever something doesn't go to plan for the drivers in front. You are there to steal points, steal positions, etc. And that's literally what happened at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Nicholas Latifi and George Russell were there or thereabout. And when we had that multiple car crash on the first lap, they were there. Literally, they were there to get points. So I think that's a major boost for the confidence of their drivers, but also the team. I think that can work as major motivation going forward. That gives them something to emulate, something to benchmark, something to try and replicate as the season goes forward. So it will be interesting looking forward to them. Look, speculation is rife that they could lose George Russell to Mercedes, and then who needs to come back into that seat. We know Dan Ticktum is no longer part of the driver program, so that literally leaves Nicholas Latifi, Roy Nissany, Jamie Chadwick, who's the W Series driver. I think she's their development driver. So we'll see where that goes. I am working on an article for Driver Mod, where I post articles, and I will be touching on the George Russell to Mercedes rumors and stuff like that. So yeah, 10 points for Williams, by the way. Aston Martin, 48 points. Ooh, Aston Martin. Hit and miss at times, but I think, look, it's no doubt the regulations have hit them hard, and it's why Otmar Safnauer, the team principal at the start of the season, was hammering about trying to fight these regulation changes, because they really got the short end of the stick. But that's just Formula One. All throughout history, we've seen how regulation changes kind of work for other teams and work against other teams. So Yeah, unfortunately, they were one of the losers in this case, but sometimes you just need to put your head down and do what you need to do. And we saw that in races such as the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku and the Hungarian Grand Prix in Budapest, where Sebastian Vettel, again, was there or thereabouts. And you kind of want to seize these opportunities. You want to capitalize on mistakes that happen on track. That's what you get for being aware. You know, sometimes I think we forget how aware and cognizant drivers have to be of whatever's happening around on track. It's so easy to watch things on a TV screen, to have replays, to have commentary that kind of lends us an explanation, but also puts our mental state in a position where we understand what's going on. So for a driver, you have to rely on your team, but you have to rely on your senses and your racecraft, your intuition, your instinct while you're on track. And I think that's going to be something Aston Martin are going to need more of going into the season as we into the second half. They're going to need their drivers to be on it, you know. Even if they in the points consistently, like 8, 9, 9, 10, that's fine. But they're going to need their drivers to capitalize whenever things go wrong. A botched pit stop, collision on track. They need their drivers to capitalize on that. Touching on Lance Stroll, look, he's just been a okay driver. I haven't focused as much on him simply because my attention in that team has been on Sebastian Vettel, who seems to be picking up form, and that's definitely what Aston Martin wanted from him when they signed him. Look, there's no doubt about it. We know how quality Seb is. I mean, he is a 4-time Formula One world champion. So Aston Martin needed him to pick up form, and we started seeing that, and that's why he's got podiums this year. And he's so unlucky to lose the podium in the Hungarian Grand Prix due to the disqualification because the FIA couldn't get a sufficient fuel sample to test after the race. It's harsh. There's no doubt about that. It's harsh, but it's the law, and it's the law that everyone has to abide to, and everyone is punished if they contravene that. So yes, while it hurts, ultimately those are the rules of the game, and it's so unlucky, it's so unfortunate to see such happen to such a nice person, because I think Seb has become one of, if not the most likable person on the grid. He's just become so jovial, so human, so, dare I say, so relatable. He seems like that cool uncle everyone has. So yeah, unfortunate, but that kind of shows the capabilities of this team. That if stuff does go wrong on track, they can be there to capitalize. So 48 points for them. AlphaTauri 68 points. This is actually a difficult team to judge. Because on the one side, they've got a driver who's driving brilliantly in Pierre Gasly, and he seems just to be doing what he has to do when the time is right. And then you've got a rookie who we shouldn't really have high expectations of, but some races he's there and some races he's not. His form fluctuates, and I think this is where it helps to kind of have a Pierre Gasly or someone experienced next to him. So I think that they just need to calm him down, just kind of get his mind right. And maybe this break is exactly what he needs to kind of recollect, rethink some stuff, and get back to it. You know, one of the reasons why I think it's so tough to judge this team is if you go to testing, this is a while now, but I know I said don't read too much into testing, but when we looked at their car, their package, it was really quick in testing. This team looked like it would be challenging for third or fourth on the constructors table. I don't think they're reaching that expectation, but they haven't fallen that far off. So I think there is a decent and solid foundation that they could build on. It's just a matter of getting everything to work in their favor. So they've got 68 points. They're decent margin away from Aston Martin, and they're not that far from the team on top, which is Alpine. So overall, it's an above average season, but I think more could come from this team. So you could pay attention to them and just see where their season goes. Alpine, 77 points. Let's talk about Esteban Ocon, when we heard he was getting a contract extension, his form massively dipped. And it was tough to explain. He claims there was a problem with the car. Turns out there was a slide, but engineers don't believe that was the complete factor that contributed to his dip in form. But whatever it was, he's picked up form and he's now a race winner. You know, it's just it's sport, man. It's sport. You have to be there, you know. And I think with the aftermath of the Hungarian Grand Prix and the way Esteban Ocon was talking about his teammate Fernando Alonso, we can see that there is a team culture there. There is a team chemistry that is working for the team. Their drivers aren't clashing. Their drivers are, dare I say, working for each other and by greater extent for the team. So I think that bodes well for the team going forward. They will be a team to watch. They are consistently within the top 10. I think they are solid enough to build something going into next year and going forward. The other driver, however, Fernando Alonso, I was wrong, all right? I was one of the people who vehemently called for Alonso to lose his seat, simply because I wanted to see someone new, someone fresh, someone young in that seat. But ultimately, it's what your drivers can do for the team. And what him and Ocon are doing for the team is impressive. It's brilliant. And I think we saw in Hungary, because he was one of the standouts because of the way he defended against Lewis Hamilton, that he's still a driver that has a massive amount of racecraft, brilliant driving, and the awareness to kind of work out things as he's on track. So, yeah, I was wrong about Alonso coming back to Formula One. I'm glad he's there. He offers something different, and that's a good thing going forward. McLaren, 163 points. Ooh. Two sides of the same coin. Two sides of the same coin for this team. Lando Norris is performing brilliantly. He's been scoring points in every race apart from Hungary, and even that was through no fault of his own. He's one of the standout drivers of the season. But then you have his teammate who's really having a tough time. And I've gone into why Daniel Ricciardo is having a tough time, what he said, what the team thinks. It's sad because he's a likable character and we know how good he is on his day. He's a driver we have high expectations for. So it's sad, but unfortunately, that is sport. So yeah, their drivers are really different sides of the same coin. One is performing brilliantly and one is having a tough season. I think the break, again, do some work with him, get him ready, and that could bode well for the team because the team is generally looking solid. You know, there's a few things that do go wrong, and largely it generally happens on track. But I think the team as a whole has got good structure and is solid enough to probably finish third again. You know, it's tight between them and Ferrari. They're on the same points now, 163. But yeah, if they can get it together, there's still a large possibility of them nicking third. I mean, as it stands, judging by their average finishing positions, they're going to finish fourth or third. So best they can do third, worst they can do is fourth. So yeah, they don't have that much to lose and they don't also have that much to gain, but they are in a solid enough position to do something decent. As is the case with Ferrari. Look, Ferrari has improved tenfold, no doubt about that. And because the season has been so topsy-turvy, we've been focusing on the battle up front between Mercedes, Red Bull, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Toto Wolff, Christian Horner. They deserve a special mention because they are having a battle of their own. But we've neglected what Ferrari has been doing. We've neglected the improvement that Ferrari has shown coming into the season. And as a complete driver pairing, I think they have the best pairing on the grid this year. Simply because if Charles Leclerc is not doing too well, Carlos Sainz is there to pick up the scraps. If Carlos Sainz is not doing too well, Charles Leclerc is there to pick up the scraps. And even though they fluctuate on who's better, who's not better, they are still in positions where they can get a decent result for the team. Yes, Sainz has been lagging in some places due to mistakes, but overall, I think they are the most consistent driver pairing we have this season. Charles Leclerc was leading Silverstone for what, until the last 3 laps of the race. That says a lot for a team who don't have the most competitive package on the grid. So, yeah, 163 points, third in the Constructors' Championship. And like I said, I think they have the most solid driver pairing this year. There were doubts around Carlos Sainz when he moved from McLaren to Ferrari. A lot of people questioned what he was doing. But he got there, he put in the work. As we've heard countless times how dedicated, how motivated he is. So to see him get there, put in the work and put himself next to a driver as brilliant as Charles Leclerc, that has to be praised. This team pairing could do wonders for Ferrari if they finally have a competitive car to put at the front of the grid. I know there are rumors that Ferrari could use Carlos Sainz as like a stopgap until Schumacher gets a bit more experience. I think he is putting his name above any other driver that Ferrari could potentially choose for that second seat, simply because of the performances he is putting in this season. So kudos to those drivers and kudos to Ferrari. Red Bull, 291 points. Now, I still believe Red Bull have the best overall package this year. I just think the form of the teams is going to fluctuate based on setup and based on circuit, and we saw that with Silverstone, how competitive the Mercedes was, and we saw that with Hungary, how, dare I say, dominant the Mercedes was. Look, they've been very unlucky as well. Max Verstappen's been unlucky, particularly in Baku with the blown rear tire. Definitely Hungary. Silverstone, it still has an asterisk on it because, I believe that was a racing incident, so I wouldn't necessarily class him as unlucky there, but they've lost a lot of points through situations outside of their control. Same with Sergio Perez in Hungary, no fault whatsoever. I think their letdown, however, is the performance of Sergio Perez. They really brought Sergio Perez in to be a consistent driver, somewhere close to Max Verstappen at the front of the grid. And look, as good as Sergio can be in a race, they don't need a person who's going to qualify poorly and try to make up those positions in a race. They need someone who's going to qualify decently and then move forward in the race. So him messing up qualifying and starting 10th, 11th, 12th, it doesn't really do them any favors. Yes, he eventually makes up those positions and maybe he puts himself in a competitive position, 5th, 6th, 4th. But I think they would rather have him start at the front with the leading guys just to give them strategy options and to give them that 2-driver challenge at the front. So, yeah, Sergio Perez needs to put some work in. So, he is the letdown for the team at the moment because Red Bull have done an impressive job on their car. Max Verstappen is at the top of his game, probably driver of the season so far. And you need Sergio Perez not to be a Max Verstappen, but to be close enough so that the team can exploit him as they do with Verstappen. Mercedes, 303 points, and they are leading the Constructors' Championship due to the unlucky nature of Red Bull this year. Look, I've spoken multiple times about the issues I see at Mercedes, what's wrong with Mercedes, what I think needs to happen. I will say this, Lewis Hamilton to be leading the Drivers' Championship and putting so many points into the team's bucket is an achievement in itself. We know the Mercedes isn't the best car on the grid, but also isn't that far off. But their upgrades from Silverstone coming into now seem to have put the car closer towards Red Bull. I think, again, it's going to depend on setup changes and the circuit that they are racing at to see who ultimately has the faster car. But I think if they are competitive and Lewis Hamilton can be on the front foot, they will need Valtteri Bottas to come up and assist because, like I said, Red Bull is so good at the moment that Mercedes needs both of their drivers performing at their best or close to their best in order to maximize points, finish at the front, and challenge Red Bull and solidify their position. So I think Valtteri Bottas has been the letdown for the season. His form has been inconsistent. He's fluctuated a lot, especially in the start of the season. I think he's picked up slightly now, but he ruined that with a mistake that cost the race for Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez, Lando Norris at the Hungarian Grand Prix. So yeah, that's huge, but Mercedes need him to be there or thereabout as well. So yeah, I think this is what we've all wanted as fans. We've wanted a close constructors challenge. We've wanted a close drivers challenge. We've wanted a good season where the talking points vary between different drivers, different teams, different cars, different performances. As it stands this season, after every race, there is something to talk about, whether that is the performance of one team, the performance of one driver, the mistakes of another driver, or just the way things turn out in that weekend. This is what we wanted, and we are getting what we wanted. I hope that the changes from next year as well bring this grid even closer and give us that competitiveness that we've yearned for so long. So the season so far has been great. It has been great, and I'm looking forward to the season going forward. Yes, when they come back, they're going to one of my favorite circuits, Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. I think that's going to be a good race again. And yeah, this is a good season. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on the teams and the drivers so far, halfway through this 2021 season. I will have one more podcast episode going up, and then I'll go quiet up until the Belgian Grand Prix. That's when I'll see you guys. As always, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Talk with Tubbs, a Petrolhead's perspective. As always, if you want to follow me, check me out on Twitter at Tubbs_Miriohle, THAPZ_MEREOHLE. I hope you guys are still keeping safe. I hope you guys have found something to do while we don't have any Formula One action. I hope you guys have fun. Hope you have a good week.